climate action is a reciprocal one. He added that the climate action cannot be reduced to just the decarbonization, but must be dealt with within the framework of sustainable development goals to empower economic and societies.
Mahmoud Mohieldin, the UN climate change high-level champion for Egypt, stressed that the relationship between public health and climate action is a reciprocal one. Mohieldin, who is also the UN Special Envoy on financing the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, made his remarks during a discussion session on the relationship between climate change and public health and its impact on the economies of the countries. The alignment of health and climate policy is in line with the approach adopted by Egypt's presidency of the 2022 UN Climate Change Conference COP27, set to be held in Sharm el-Sheikh in November. He added that climate action cannot be reduced to just decarbonization, but must be dealt within the framework of sustainable development goals to empower economies and societies. The climate champion stressed the need to achieve a balance between climate action and public health so that resources are not directed to the health sector at the expense of climate action, especially in light of the coronavirus pandemic. Mohieldin said that UN reports indicates climate change is expected to cause 250,000 additional deaths per year from 2030 to 2050. He also stressed the need to develop comprehensive healthcare and health insurance systems, given that 930 million people around the world spend at least 10% of their household budgets seeking healthcare during catastrophes. The climate champion stressed that the COP27 will implement pledges through application, investment and projects. The climate champion explained that the need to integrate regional dimensions into climate action, especially in light of the sharp decline in international cooperation. Mohieldin said that Egypt has been localizing climate action by bolstering investments in green projects through the National Initiative for Smart Green Projects. According to Mohieldin, 6,000 projects have been submitted to the initiative so far. Mohieldin concluded his speech by stressing the need to increase climate finance in order to ensure the success of implementation in climate action.
And the green economy is increasingly recognized as a tool to achieve sustainable development. The concept has been adopted by several countries across the globe. In Egypt, one of the main policy objectives is to achieve sustainable development with the emphasis on employment generation, poverty reduction, social equity, and environmental integrity. To shed more light on the issue, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Hassan Aboelnga. He's an international expert in water security and sustainable development and researcher at the Technical University of Cologne, Germany. Good afternoon to Dr. Aboelnga.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much, sir, for being our guest for today. Sir, Mahmoud Mohieldin, the UN climate change high-level champion for Egypt, stressed that the climate action cannot be reduced to just decarbonization, but must be dealt with within the framework of sustainable development goals to empower the economies and the society. What's your take on that?
Well, climate change has always two components. One, adaptation to climate change, and the other is mainly about decarbonization through the mitigation of climate change, that we need to really limiting the warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius to reduce the odds of initiating the most dangerous and irreversible effects of climate change. It's really crucial here to deal with climate change as a cross-cutting issue, as noted that it's really interconnected with the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So the climate change is already in both agendas of Paris Agreement to climate change and also the UN Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. So it's really interconnected with all Sustainable Development Goals ranging from ending poverty, health, food security, water, and so on. So it's really crucial to address climate change with such a holistic framework to increase the adaptive capacities, strengthening resilience and reducing vulnerability to climate change, with also a view to contributing to sustainable development and ensuring an adequate adaptation response. And really, this is what is really needed from all countries to deal with climate change with this holistic manner.
Yeah. Dr. Aboelnga, Egypt actually has taken many steps in order to transform to a green economy. Would you tell us more about this, focusing on the environment-friendly projects implemented in various domains?
Yeah, although Egypt's share of the global CO2 emissions and the greenhouse gas emission doesn't really exceed 0.6%, Egypt is also most vulnerable to the negative impacts of climate change, ranging from water scarcity, droughts, rising sea levels, and also other adverse impacts of climate change. Actually, Egypt has launched the National Strategy for Climate Change 2050 to lay down a general framework to identify problems in all affected sectors, and then also to enhance how the society and the infrastructure can cope with the risks and their impact on various sectors. Actually, with this strategy, they allocated 324 billion US dollars to achieve this strategy. So for both mitigation and also for adaptation to climate change. And this strategy is really crucial to reduce the greenhouse gas emission, adapt to climate change with the country's ability to address this issue, governance framework of the state and society, improving also the financing infrastructure and improving the scientific research and the technology management.
Yeah.
This is all what we have today from the climate change and the ambitions of also Egypt to adapt to climate change and also to deal with the critical challenges of climate extreme.
Yes. Dr. Aboelnga, how does the green economy, from your point of view, contribute towards the environmental sustainability?
So, a green economy is defined as a low carbon, resource efficient, and socially inclusive. So, in green economy, it really provides a macroeconomic approach to sustainable economic growth with a central focus on investment, employment, and skills. And this is very crucial to understand that green economy is not an enemy to the normal economy. And this is very crucial to make investments in renewable energies such as solar power, onshore and offshore wind power, hydrogen, electric vehicles, and energy efficient homes. So this is all very crucial for green economy. And actually, in Egypt, we have also a great ambition in order to go in this direction with this green economy, but this needs also a financing. It needs also new governance. It's challenging how also we collaborate at different levels and also implementing local projects in order to deal with such extremes from climate and also the risks that comes out of it.
Yes. Actually, Finance Minister Mohammed Mait announced that the government is preparing for a package of incentives for a new and green industries which target the export and to reduce the import. Would you please tell us more about the state efforts to support this tendency?
So this really incentives are really needed in Egypt and in all countries to make, the space for more private sector participation in the economy, and also clear hurdles also facing the community, the business community, to create also business environment. And these incentives are really crucial for specific sectors like for manufacture and also agriculture. And we face in Egypt also a greater challenge to achieve food security. And in terms of implementation of such incentives, Egypt already has afforded more than 570 million Egyptian pounds as a green incentive for obsolete vehicles replacement initiatives to mitigate air pollution and reduce carbon emissions. But for sure, we need more billions of dollars in order to reach to this direction. And Egypt is really going on the direction to support the private sector in order to raise its contribution to more than 50% of Egypt's GDP within 3 years from now. So while working for sure to stimulate it to implement environmentally friendly development projects.
Yes. Doctor, also Egypt is pressing forward with the renewable energy projects to reduce the climate change. How far has Egypt progressed to reach that until now, from your point of view?
Actually, Egypt's official position is very committed to boosting its renewable energy capacity and production. We have in Egypt, the country has established large-scale wind farms, including the Za'farana wind farm, 745 megawatts, Jabal Zayat, 2040 megawatts, and all these mega projects that we have been also implementing to restore ecosystem in Manzara Lake, also building a new wastewater treatment plant, all this contributing to the direction to have an efficient and also renewable energy project to mitigate climate change and also to boost the country position when it comes to implementing actions for climate change.
Yes.
And the country has been also developing policies, regulatory frameworks, and the financial incentives for private investors, especially in this sector, to remove the obstacles and streamlining also the procedures for renewable energy policies.
Yes.
And also deregulating the energy marketing and offering investment guarantees with also the new Egyptian investment law that has been on in 2017.
Yes. Doctor, actually the new administrative capital will become a model for the environmental and sustainable urban planning by using the solar energy, increasing the number of green areas and recycling waste, as well as many other elements which would be applied in order to protect the environment. What's your take on that, and what do you suggest to transform Cairo into a green city as well?
So actually all the new administrative capital is really in line with the new republic that is really launched this year, which really encompasses a series of called fourth generation cities that are being built across Egypt and which should be also complete this year, and this will be opening also new smart cities, not just the administrative capital, but in Aswan, in Alamein, in Mansoura, in Rosetta, and so on. So this is really a dramatic development in Egypt. It is not a question of the new building, but marks also a new form of sustainable development that will be a hallmark of the new republic. And we have seen such green cities. If you go to the new republic, you will find a new type also of dealing with urban planning, increasing the green areas, dealing with the transport, with also dealing with efficient energy sources and new sources of energy. It's really a complete set of actions that need really to have a resilient and smart cities. Yes. And while also this is really a global issue with climate change, many countries can learn from the experience of Egypt in order to really reach to this direction.
Yes, indeed. Dr. Hassan Aboelnga, international expert in water security and sustainable development and researcher at the Technical University of Cologne, Germany. Thank you very much for your very precious input. Always a pleasure to have you with us, sir. And a new government has been set up in Chad, where General Mohamed Idriss Déby II was sworn in as president of a 2-year transitional period ahead of the democratic elections, and has promised to quickly appoint a national unity government 18 months after taking power at the head of a military junta. A laborious national sovereign and inclusive dialogue had endorsed a possibility for the head of state to run for president at the end of the transition period.
Chad junta chief Mohamed Idriss Déby II said a government of national union would be created in the coming days to steer the course toward elections following a forum on the country's future. During ceremonies where he was appointed transitional president after the forum, which ended on Saturday, Déby said that the government will put its heart and soul into ensuring that the will of the Chadian people is fully upheld. Chad, one of the world's poorest countries, has endured repeated uprisings and unrest since gaining independence from France in 1960. Deby, a 38-year-old five-star general, took the helm in April 2021 after his father Idriss Deby Itno, who had ruled with an iron fist for 3 decades, was killed during an operation against rebels. Parliament was dissolved and the constitution was suspended as Deby was proclaimed president. He headed a junta of 15 generals that he said would rule for 18 months, a period that without extension would have ended this month. Deby then organized a national inclusive dialogue that he said would chart the country's return to civilian rule. It wound up on Saturday after endorsing a further 2-year period leading to elections during which Deby would become transitional president and be allowed to stand as a candidate in the future polls. The conference opened on August 20 after repeated delays and was boycotted by the main political opposition movement and by 2 out of the 3 biggest armed rebel groups. Deby said the government would be formed in the next few days and oversee what he called the second phase of transition leading to the strengthening of democracy. VIPs who attended his inauguration included Nigerian President, the Central African Republic and Democratic Republic of Congo. France was represented by its ambassador, as was the European Union.
Our dear viewers, that would bring us to the end of this edition of Africa Today, but we leave you with this feature story where Kenya's wildlife officials have made a free mobile phone app to help track the wild animal in the country. The plan to use information from the app to help protect these animals. And with this feature story, we'll be wrapping up our episode. Till tomorrow with another crew, it's goodbye, and with this feature story from Kenya.
The National Museums of Kenya has launched an app to help the country's wildlife authorities track and log rare and common mammals and record whether the species and their habitat are thriving. At the Soy-Sambo Conservancy in Nakuru, southern Kenya, tourists come to experience the rich biodiversity. When John Parrott, the owner of a camel safari, takes out his phone, it's not merely taking a picture. He is actually using the Makenya Mammal Atlas Kenya app, which allows users to record all the details of any mammals they spot. In addition to benefiting tourism and those who work for animal welfare, the free app can be a tool for raising awareness. Researcher Simon Musila wants the general public to seize this opportunity to positively impact wildlife conservation. The Kenyan Wildlife Service says around 25,000 species of animal and 7,000 species of plants have so far been recorded. If making an inventory of the species is important, collecting additional data that enables monitoring the living conditions of the animals is another objective of the app. The researcher at the National Museums of Kenya added that it will be a game changer because it will also capture the habitat type where that species is found. It's indeed essential to identify conditions in which animals are still able to thrive or at least cope. The effects of drought across parts of Kenya threaten species like rhinos. The Mammal Committee of Nature Kenya, the National Museums of Kenya, and collaborators created the app.